All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the A7E podcast. This is your host, Jigga Dren. Guys, we are finally crossing over the episode 40 of the A7E podcast. We got a returning guest today, phenomenal guest, good guest, Arnold. Appreciate you coming back, man. This is the third week that we had it scheduled, essentially, right? We had some stuff come on, but nonetheless, I appreciate you coming back, man.
Thank you, thank you. It's always an honor to be here. And yeah, for sure, I think we talked about it. What like ever since like December, we wanted to
Yeah,
actually close the year
yeah,
with the
towards the end
podcast,
of the December, yeah.
and then we tried rescheduling again. And well, good thing we're here now.
Yeah,
Good thing we're here.
yeah, for sure. I know that you had gotten sick, and then we were supposed to run it back last weekend, and then something came up for a family emergency that I had to travel out to Houston. I actually had two scheduled, you and then someone else, and then so essentially I had to reschedule both of those. But yeah, man. So we're here. It's been a long time coming since the first episode we did.
For real, man. It's been what like over a year now.
Over a year.
That's
So
crazy.
I've officially had my podcast, and I say officially since my very first episode where I did it by myself. I think we're looking at 2019, which was essentially a test video. But since I've been actually trying to be consistent with it, it's been about a year, a little bit over. So yeah, hoping to catch up a bit, hoping to kind of see where you are, where everything, what has changed, where we at now. But let's start with a little bit of a introduction from yourself, and then see what we can do.
My name is Arnold. I am the owner of Gym Addicts, which is a clothing brand. We started, or we relaunched 2 years ago. Um, the brand originally started back in 2018 after an accident that I had in 2017. Excuse me. The accident actually made me go into I said it like into a dark hole. I went through some difficulties. I lost my job at the time. My vehicle, I ended up hurting my back, and eventually what helped me actually move forward or past that situation was the gym.
Mm.
The gym, and actually that's why the brand is called Gym Addicts, because the gym became an addiction to me. Because that was the only place where I was finding peace. That's where I could disconnect from the world and actually move forward day by day.
Cool, man. Talk to me a little bit about. So you mentioned it was an accident, right?
Yeah.
Like what? Why? Like how was the accident? Essentially, what were the results? I think you mentioned an injury.
Yes. The accident happened off of the expressway on 23rd and Express. I got rear-ended. It's about 50, 60 miles an hour. Um, and it hurted my back. I herniated three lower discs, the O3, the O4, and the O5. And it took me about a year more or less to recover. I couldn't lift any heavy weights. I had to go through multiple therapies and stuff. Thank God I didn't have to go through no surgeries, but it did delay me a lot in the process where, job wise and, gym wise. And the process was very slow. I had to learn to be very patient with myself because I was used to going to the gym on a daily basis and lifting, at a certain level. And I had to start all over again. Like I said, it was a tough process, but I was able to overcome it.
How long was that process from when you had the injury, up until I guess the therapy and things like that? Like, how long was the process that it took you before the doctor said, "Hey, you know what? You're good to go, 100%. You're free."
So about a year and a half.
Really?
Yeah, and like I said, it was a very even till today. There's a lot of exercise that I cannot do just due to the fact that the discs are still herniated, so I cannot squat, I cannot deadlift.
Really?
And if I do, it has to be the bare minimum weight because obviously if you squat, your weight is on your back, so it pressures your lower disc. And if I squat or if I deadlift a little bit heavy, the next day I'll feel it. It's hard for me to get out of bed and stuff. So it's something that's gonna be for me or with me for the rest of my life.
Okay. Um, wow. Yeah, I can't imagine, not being able to squat and deadlift. And I say that just simply because those are very good exercises, for strength, obviously for,
Yes.
muscle growth as well. And to some, they're just fun, right? To be able to squat and deadlift. So especially when you've been going to the gym for a long time and then just like having to remove those exercises from your regimen, it's like, It's new.
They have to be substituted with something else that
Yep.
I'm able to still do the same range of motion, but be able to be more careful with my lower back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a lot of adjusting. Even on the outside, on daily basis, there's a lot of stuff that I cannot, carry, or certain things that I can't do because it'll hurt my lower back.
Cool. So you started gymnatics. Now, did you officially start that before the accident or after?
It was after the
Right,
accident.
because of, you started finding the gym more consistently, became essentially addicted to it. Gymnastics came about. What else?
Yes, I think at the beginning the gym was like everything. At first you start going to the gym and it's like I gotta go to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
and then it starts becoming a routine and
Absolutely.
stuff. I think after the accident, I started generating more of a passion to it because, like I said, that was a place where I could disconnect from the world, and a lot of people see the gym because they think you're just gonna go lift to look better, but in reality, there's a lot of benefits to it. You
Massive.
actually work your mental health. Not only do you feel better, but you start looking better, and although a lot of things started developing, and like I said, I started building a passion for it, so I wanted to be there every day, and eventually, it's what helped me, stabilize my mindset because there was a lot of things going on, in that time.
Yeah.
How was I gonna pay my next bill? How was I gonna,
So you
um,
weren't working at that time, like.
the thing was that since I had a lawsuit going on,
Uh,
I had to go through multiple therapies and stuff,
yeah.
and they didn't want to release me to go back to work. So work was paying me, but they only paid me to a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And then after that, I had a job, but I wasn't getting paid.
Okay.
So that's where the pressure came in. You get me?
Yeah.
And it was stressful. It was very, very stressful. And like I said, the gym is what kept me. Uh, I could say that kept my head above the water.
Yeah. Dang, dude, I can't imagine like having those pressures and stress of essentially having to work, needing to work and not being able to, or your job that you have is not paying you. So how besides the gym, mentally, like how was it for you? Kind of not like forgetting or avoiding those problems or ignoring them, but besides the gym, was that the only way that you're able to deal with them?
Actually, I mean, there's a lot of things that came into play. The faith, it was very important. Keeping a strong bond, with God during that time, because I feel during those times your faith gets tested a lot, and I think it happens to everybody. You endure an injury or an accident, or you're going through some tough times, and you're asking yourself, "Where's God during these times?" Is He really gonna come and help me?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that these are just tests that life throws at you to see if you're faithful, how you say you are, because a lot of us tend to run towards God when the problem shows up.
When things are bad.
Yes, but when things are good, we forget about it. It's like, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Money's coming in. We're able to go out. We're
No
able
need to
to
pray no more.
exactly. So we forget about it, and that's when I found out that you got to keep a strong, bond even during those times. And as a matter of fact, that along the way through my whole journey, I've been learning that your setbacks is what makes you shine in the light. A lot of people are afraid of the darkness, and actually, the darkness is what makes you become a better person because that's where you start molding yourself, and shaping into becoming a better person. You realize your mistakes, and you're like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore, or I went through this accident and this was caused it or whatever, and that's where you're like, okay, we're gonna avoid that, but we're gonna go this way, and that's what brings you up to become a better person.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that people need to be conscious of as well is that I think getting to a dark place in your life at some point is inevitable. Like I really believe I feel like I haven't met anybody that hasn't gone through something dark, right? Like everybody inevitably is going to go through some level of pain, some higher than others, a level of darkness, some higher than others, but nonetheless that they're going to experience what the equivalent of that dark places of pain. And I think consciously, if you haven't experienced that yet, you have to be able to recognize when that moment is. if you're in that moment, you're in a dark place and you're at what you consider rock bottom, you have to make a conscious decision that this is not a place where you have to stay. This can be a pivotal moment in your life where you can grow from, right? You can learn from, and then you have the ability to explore solutions to that problem. I think a lot of people when they find themselves in that dark place, one, they don't realize they're in it. All they know and are conscious of is the sad and bad emotions that they experience: sad, tears, laziness, drugginess, whatever it is. And they let that darkness like overtake them, right? And I think when that happens, people label it as depression, and that's when I feel that most people have given up. They've given in to the situation that they're in, and they've no longer exercised their willpower to try and get out.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, and like you said, we all go through our dark moments. Um, and it's good to recognize it when you're down there because that's when you're able to ask for help. And a lot of us tend to try to figure out our problems on our own. Um, I guess it just depends on what you're going through. Sometimes you can, and sometimes it's always good to reach out, to a friend or a family member. Ultimately, first, I say the first one you got to reach out is to God.
Absolutely.
Make sure you have a good connection with Him, and then after that, everything should start, getting saluted. Um, I heard this actually it was in a movie that said, you don't drown by jumping into the river. You drown by staying down there. It's like you said, ultimately, you got to recognize it and start exploring options so you can start finding solutions.
Yeah. Do you think, in your opinion, and just thinking out loud here, do you think that certain people use terrible moments in their lives or hardships or dark moments as quote unquote as an excuse to not have to fight anymore, as a reason to uh, victimize themselves and make it seem like the world's after them and that they have it harder than everybody else, and that's why they haven't been able to do or accomplish certain things because everything's out to get them?
I believe at a certain point, depending on your mindset, a lot of people tend to play the victim card. I've seen it. And it's sad because, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I've had my moments where I've been down and believe me, it's something that you don't wish on nobody, right? But like you said, we all go through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then some people don't try to explore new options. They feel that once they go into that hole, that's it. Like, they are waiting for somebody to come and rescue them. And guess what? Nobody's going to come and rescue you. Everything is like I've said it before. Everything that you have or that you need is already within you. Everything that you need to succeed, it's already in there. The only thing you got to do is continue using it. But some people fall into that hole and that's it for them.
I agree. I definitely agree with you saying that everything that you need to come out of any problem is within you. And I feel like a lot of people do ignore that. I feel like whatever you have in you can be developed, can be worked on, can be strengthened, it can be sharpened, whatever it is, whatever abilities you have or characteristics that will allow you to come out of a certain place like that, they need to be worked on, right? Whether it be like your consciousness, your awareness, your will, your perseverance, right? The ability to just keep going, right? Those are, I think those are abilities because they have to be abilities because not everybody does it and not everybody can do it and not everybody can do it exactly the same.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a level of opportunity to be able to develop them, more than others. And if you don't develop those essentially skill sets or whatever it may be, and you do come into a hard time in your life, you're going to struggle that much more. So consciously in your day-to-day, even if you're not going through a bad situation, you can still work on those things.
Yes, most definitely. And it's like I said, I think that's why I go to the gym a lot because that's the place where I'm able to work on myself. And I feel that sometimes we get so caught up in life that we forget to work, or invest time into ourselves.
Oh, big time.
And that's a very, very important thing to do. Why? Because just like you said it, a lot of people forget about, that and they just want to go through life like if nothing's happening. But, there's always a lot of things happening around us. So I think that's a big key to invest time in yourself. and be able to acknowledge it when you actually, need to, if you're not doing it, and just try to separate from whatever you're going through and just start working on yourself so you can come back and find a solution to the problems you got.
What do you think the biggest reason is that people neglect investing time into themselves? And what do you mean by investing time?
I think it's just our daily life. People get so caught up on like what's going on social media and stuff. Some people compare themselves to others, um, or they feel that they're falling behind. And nowadays, the only thing you see on social media and stuff is people chasing, money or luxuries and stuff, that they forget to spend time at the gym or meditate, or spend time with their families, something that's going to create you happiness and be able to keep you at peace. And for me, that's investing time into myself, educating yourself,
Yep.
reading a book, something that's going to create you or add something to your value to your life. You get me? By going out and partying and stuff, it's not really going to help much. But people do tend to focus on like, hey, you know what? I'm having a stressful week. I'm gonna go get a drink.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, for me, that adds no value. But maybe sitting down reading a book or going to the gym and de-stressing and stuff, I feel that helps me out more.
I agree, man. And I'm gonna be honest. There's people out there that do like to take or do the party route or go out for a drink when the week's been stressful. And have I ever done that? I don't think so. Like I don't think I've ever been like, oh, I've had a rough week, I'm gonna get a drink. I've never done that. But it seems that it's an empty solution for those that have done it and enjoy it, right? To say that you had a stressful week and that going out and grabbing a drink is a solution to that, or maybe I think that's incorrect. I think that's an empty solution. I think it holds no value, just like you said. And I think there's other ways that what if you got a drink, but at the same time, you invest at the same time into yourself. At the same, you got a drink with you, right? Maybe you're reading or something like that. Can you have a drink and read something educational? Can I be having a drink right now while doing this podcast with you, still feeling maybe,
Yeah.
right? But what I'm trying to say is like to take away real valuable time from yourself to go out to, let's say, a bar or something where you now have no longer have the opportunity to create or do something valuable. I think that's where it's like that's where it gets incorrect. You know what I mean?
Yes, and just to clarify, I have nothing,
Yeah,
against people drinking or anything
Yeah.
like that. I personally don't drink. I've never drank.
You've never
But
drank?
Never.
How old are you?
32.
32. You haven't drank?
Never. I've never even gone through a sip
Why?
or anything. It's just never been my thing.
We'll get drunk. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm messing with you.
They've tried. I got
yeah.
a couple of friends that have tried to get me drunk, but it's never happened.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have nothing against, the people that catch a drink or whatever. But then if you're going through a struggle and you're going out there and then you're still drinking on top of that, there's not going to be any solution. The next day you're going to continue on and it's going to be the same thing, probably even worse. But yeah, like you said, maybe reading a book and having a casual drink or something, that'd probably be a pretty good way to go about it.
Yeah, and honestly, I was just thinking out loud. I'm not going to sit here and tell my listeners, oh, I drink and read at the same time. I don't think I've ever done that. First of all, I don't drink a lot at all. The first time I ever had a drink, I was like 22 or like 23 or something like that. Everybody that's listening that does know me knows that I really don't, right? Mm-hmm. But what I will say, because there's video footage that when I do drink and I tell you that I'm going to drink, if I tell you right now, Arnold, this weekend I'm going to go drink, it's because I'm drinking, dude, right? Because I don't do it all the time. Mm-hmm. So that means I've made my mind up to be like, this I'm going to do it this time. And that means it's probably going to involve a lot of drinks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because of that, I don't drink a lot. But yeah, so I don't drink and read. I don't drink and do podcasts. Now I've thought about it, but I don't think that's the solution yet. But to your point, if you're in a dark hole and if you're in a bad place, there's a fine line to thinking that grabbing a drink is a solution, because too many drinks could add to that problem and dig that hole deeper. You know what I mean? And not just with drinks, drugs, whatever you think might make you feel good.
Even just staying in a room for so long, that's not gonna add you no value because I feel that a lot of us tend to and going back to that experience, at the beginning, I thought that just staying in the room and thinking about the stuff that
Oh
had
no.
happened was gonna find me some solutions because I thought like, okay, I'm gonna be sitting here, I'm gonna think about what happened and how can I salute this. But instead of me finding solutions, I was thinking myself more because there was no solutions. My mind just kept overthinking about the problems and stuff, and I was going deeper.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, even just staying in bed can lead you to more issues.
Random question for you. Do you remember the exact emotions you felt? Like, let's say, because I'm assuming right now at this point in your life, it's not the rock bottom compared to what it was at one point.
I could tell you that now I'm able to separate my issues and look at them from a different perspective.
Yeah.
I always try to find the positive in the issue or the setback than how I used to overthink it before. You get me?
Okay.
Now, if something comes at me, I'll intake it, process it, and let it go. I
Okay.
discard it that same day, unless it's something very major.
Yeah.
Then I'll probably sit and think about it. But other than that, if something comes up to me right now, like I said, I'll intake it, process it, and discard it. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I think that everything that comes into our life or any issues, there's always a solution to it.
Oh, I believe that too. I believe that, and I'm saying it like that because I was thinking about it at the same time, but I believe it. Do you remember the exact emotions you felt when you were at the worst point of your life, if you can remember?
I think that I've had multiple occasions where I felt that I've hit, rock bottom. Um, During that time, it was very stressful. I would hardly eat. Um, I guess since I wouldn't find solutions, I was always mad and stuff. Um, and maybe I didn't realize it, but my wife at the time would, she would tell me like, "Hey, you're always in a bad mood," or "Hey, you're not eating enough," or like, "Hey, you've been sleeping more than what you usually do." Um, and I thought I was okay. I guess being a guy, you really don't want to accept it, right? Because you don't want to be seen as weak
Hmm.
or that you're doing something wrong. But now thinking about it, I was wrong. But then like it's like they tell you, right? Even when we're younger, they give us advice and we don't take it because we think everything is cool.
Hmm.
But once you start growing, you're thinking about, hey, that advice that they gave me before, it makes sense now. So yes, now that the years have passed and I look back into the stuff that went wrong, I could tell you that if I would have done so many things differently, things would have not probably not gone the way they would have. But now I'm able to, like I said, I guess earlier, I'm able to analyze things faster, process them, and discard them because now I feel like I've matured and I've grown mentally to be able to process those things faster than before.
Yeah, and I think that's a result of your growth process, right?
Yes.
Because you're saying now you can do that, which means before you could not. So
Yes.
before things were a little bit more difficult, and I think that uh, one way, I honestly I feel like the only way you can actually get to that growth part in your own life, whoever might be listening, is to actually go through something like that. Unfortunately, I feel like there's certain things in life. I truly believe that there's certain things in life that you cannot learn unless you go through them yourself, and they have to require some level of pain or sadness that only you can experience.
Yes. And I agree with you because see, I'm gonna go back a little bit into um, my life. In my younger years, I joined the fire department, right? And you're young and you want to be like everybody that's upstairs, right? Your supervisors, and you feel that you're young and you're able to do the same job or task that they can. But at that moment, you don't understand all the responsibilities they got because you don't know what they go through on a daily basis, right? And it's the same thing as being a young adult. Your parents or the people around you will tell you like, hey, don't do this because it's gonna lead you to this, right? Because they already went through it,
Hmm.
but then you don't listen to it because you're young and you're thinking like everything is pretty chill. It's like they always say around here, no pasa nada, right?
Yeah.
But then once you start going through it, you're like, they were right. And like you said, in order for you to be able to get to that level of maturity, you got to go through all these
Yeah.
experiences. Now, everybody has different seasons. Maybe you've gone through some pains that I haven't gone. Maybe you can endure some things that I can't endure. You get me? And I feel that nowadays it's a little bit easier to help each other or motivate each other because we have all these different platforms where we're able to upload, motivational videos. So we're able to talk about our experiences and people can hear us and be able to push forward in any issue that they're going through. Aside from before, let's say even back in the 90s, we didn't have all these platforms where, you were just going based on whatever they would tell you. And you had to go through the experiences no matter what.
Yeah. And it was you really didn't have a place to reach out for different perspectives. You didn't
Yes.
have other things to see. You didn't have the opportunity to learn from other people's experiences. Back in the day, I feel emotionally it was harder
Yes.
for human beings. I feel like uh, there was still relatively the same amount or more, could be stress levels of difficulty of whatever that we experience for emotions. They just back then had to deal with it internally most of the time. I feel like back then as well, traditionally men were, just like you mentioned, you were afraid to be seen weak or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, to seem that way. I think back then that was like times 50, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the man's upbringing back in the day, just completely opinion, back in the day was harder because of their parents before them. I just feel the closer we got to our ancestors, the more difficult and harder the upbringing was.
Yeah.
You could hit, you could punish, you could discipline your kids in whatever way you wanted, really, and everybody would be okay with it.
Yeah.
You could say certain things, and it's like man up or get out kind of thing. And then now we tend to, in reality, is we're a little softer in that aspect. Um, but yeah, I think it had to be more difficult back in the day, and now we do have the luxury being able to, hey, if I'm going through something, but I see that Arnold uploaded something, and it clicked with me and it resonated and really related to it, something motivational. I was like, boom, maybe that gave me the small boost or spark that I needed to get the rest of the day going.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Most definitely, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk to me a little bit about, obviously yourself, owner of Gym Addicts. What are some ups and downs? What are some things that people don't really realize? Maybe kind of what's going behind closed doors, specifically, and your personal experience with that.
See, that's a very good question. Um, I think that people see the good side about the business, everything that goes on social media. You know, um, they see the pros about having a business, that you have your own time, you're able to build your own schedule, you're able to go to all these nice events and stuff. Talking about events, as a matter of fact, we have one on Monday at Gold's in McAllen. Um,
This Monday?
this Monday the 30th.
What time?
Yes, there's a deadlift party. I believe it's gonna be at 7 if I'm not wrong. I should be posted on my social media. Um, and they see all these nice things, but in reality, there's a lot that happens behind closed doors. Um, one of the things that I've always told my guys is like, see, nobody knows if today I was on my last $20 and I used it to invest on the next 10 T-shirts to continue my business running. They don't know if I sat in my car and I overthought about the plan that I have because things haven't gone the way I thought they were gonna go, and I'm doubting myself whether I took the right decision or not. Um, and there's a lot of stressful times. Having a business comes with a lot of pressure. Not only that, not only having a business, but having a team. The team, is looking up to you. They're looking to the next decision you're gonna take. And then there's sometimes where we talk to the team, or I talk to my team and be like, hey, this is gonna happen, and then things don't come through how you were thinking, and you're sitting there like, do they really trust me? Do they really see me as a good leader? And all these things pressure you because obviously you don't want to fail. But then going back into the whole process of my life, all these things, I've been able to process them a little bit easier than before, because I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is trying to perfect things. We always try to be perfect, or we're trying to do the best thing that we can. But when you're yourself, I think that's when things start flowing a little bit better.
Right.
Right? Because we're not trying to perfect it. You're doing it as best you can and let it flow. And when I was able to adapt to that, or let that out the window, try to be perfect or do everything perfectly, is when I started relaxing a little bit more, starting leaving the pressure a little bit out. And not only that, but putting more faith in God that things happen for a reason. Sometimes things get delayed so you can see who's actually around you. Or maybe it's not the correct time for you to get it because you're not prepared for it. See, I feel now, and at the point in time in my life, that I'm ready for new things. Now I see things, and
Long term.
long term, yes. Um, Before, I wanted for things to happen accordingly, but then when I started realizing, like, no, if God is delaying it, it's for a reason, then that's when I'm like, okay, then I got to understand that the whole process is not short. Because when something comes easy, it leaves easy, right? But
Not
like
99% of the time, absolutely.
like they say, good things take time. Obviously, if you see these big brands, they didn't come up in a year. They didn't come up in 2 years. It took them time, right? There was a whole process behind it. The good thing is that once you're able to understand that, you're able to continue pushing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because you're going to succeed, but you don't know when. So you got to wake up every day and still continue pushing.
Absolutely, man. Especially I think one of the things that I've recently come across is the idea of delayed gratification, and that's essentially being okay with the idea that every time you make a decision or a move, you're already aware and okay with the fact that you're not going to get the instant gratification that a good move would give you. So, for example, if I'm making a podcast, if I'm making a podcast episode with a great guest, which I do all the time, but it doesn't give me 1,000 views or whatever, right? I already know that going into the podcast. But what I understand is that this podcast episode is not to get me 1,000 views. It's to have something for people to see when I get to a lot of followers, right? Yes. And that's whenever that happens, a lot of subscribers or whatever, that's when my gratification will come in. So I've delayed that idea. I'm already okay that it's not going to happen right now. I'm okay with the idea that it's going to take some time because, like you said, everything good does take time.
Exactly.
And I think the idea of delayed gratification has been huge for me. Even in the gym, even with personal goals that I have, is every time that I do something for myself or towards my goal, I'm okay with the fact that I actually won't feel the excitement about it or whatever, or get the rewards from it until much later down the road.
Yeah, and it's been happening to me, where from where we started to where we're at now. I've mentioned it before, where we started with like 2 sales, and then we went up to sold out events, and then things happened in my personal life, and the brand kind of stalled, and then we kicked it off again. Right? And then some new plants came along, and then they got delayed. See, but at this point in time, I've already learned that, like you said, we gotta trust the process, right?
Absolutely.
Because we might think we're ready for it, but God knows we're not, right? So He's not gonna give us everything when we ask for it. He's gonna give it to us when the time is right. And since I'm already able to understand that, things are able to flow a little bit easier for me. So if things gets delayed today or things don't happen how I was expecting it, I still thank God and I continue moving forward.
No, I agree. So I think the worst case scenario, or not a bad situation, because again, we can all learn from everything, but would be that God gives you everything you do ask for when you're not ready for it, not because He thinks you're ready for it, but because you keep asking and you get it, you're not ready for it, and then that once in a lifetime opportunity that you've always wanted and you didn't prepare for goes down the drain, and then who knows the next time for you to get it, right?
Exactly.
That has always been scary for me. And I'm sorry, just to kind of put it in simpler terms, I'm gonna just kind of paint the picture behind the financial aspect of it, right? I'd hate to receive a lot of money, right? That I know I have not developed into the person I need to be to take care of that money, right? Because there was at one point in my life where I had what for me is a lot of money or access to essentially, and I wasn't the person that I needed to be to take care of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was at that point once in a lifetime opportunity, and because I wasn't who I needed to be, it's gone. Like it's gone, right? But I realize that now, right? So it's like one of the things that they say is like you should stop trying to ask for a house when you've yet to take care of your bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's like learn to keep that clean, learn to keep that in order, learn to know where all your socks are, learn to know, make sure you're hanging all your shirts and your pants, whatever it is that you do, before you have to take care of much more.
Exactly. Yeah, and see, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I think one of the things have that's kept me afloat a little bit more now is my faith. And I understand that if God hasn't given me what I've asked for, it's because He's still shaping me into that person that
Yeah,
I really need to be before He gives me, the things that I've been asking for. Because just how you said it, He gives me everything that I've been asking for right now. I'm probably gonna fumble it, right? And that opportunity is gonna go down the drain. And guess what? That's gonna be more devastating than anything else, because I've known that we've worked so hard for it, and then to lose it, I wouldn't want to go through
that'd be
that.
tough. That would be tough, man. I'm really big on. So okay, yeah, no, I agree. Now, talk to me a little bit more about where you are now in the process, of that journey of you as the owner. Do you find that what you're going through is similar to other business owners? Do you have someone that you talk to specifically on that level of like an entrepreneur or business owner? Like, do you have another business owners that you have as a friend or a mentor, or someone that you talk to, you can get feedback from, exchange ideas, or share maybe your guys' journey?
That's a very good question. As a matter of fact, I don't.
Okay.
I don't have somebody that can mentor me. I did take some classes, um, but ultimately, and I'll be very honest. Every morning, I thank God, and I ask Him to give me the tools that I need for that day, and then at night, I just thank Him for everything that He did for me throughout that day, and I feel that I'm just letting Him guide me, where He needs for me to go. And I feel that He's been shaping me into the person that I am now. And I'm like I said, the whole process has been making me take better decisions. So that's why I feel that He's continued to delay my whole process. So by when it happens, I'll be able to be ready for it. But to be able to talk to somebody on that level, I'll be honest with you, I don't.
I think that's important. I truly think that's important. No matter like whatever it is that you're doing in your life, or you decide to do, whatever business you're in, or niche you're in, or interest that you have. For example, if you're just because I play soccer my whole life, if you're a soccer player, you get a coach. If you're wanting to do business, then you get someone within that same niche that maybe has done similar things that you want to do, right? A mentor. What I said, I'm not sure on what episode I said it, but a mentor can speed up your process almost
Hmm.
by 50 to 80%.
Yeah, most definitely, and I agree with you. With the one thing that I do have is a set plan.
Hmm.
I know where I'm going to. Um, I know what direction I want to take my business. I know the purpose that that we have. And every day I try to educate myself, whether it's by watching a video or or reading a book. That's gonna help me become a better leader. Because obviously I'm not perfect. I think I'm one of the person that makes the most mistakes. But every day I wake up with the mentality that I want to be better than I was yesterday. So I could tell you that I do have that.
Yeah. Um, just because you mentioned books and leadership, one of the biggest books for me that has helped me at least open my eyes to what it takes to be like what's considered a great leader, to the author in that book is John Maxwell. And variety of the books that he's written, he speaks in solely on leadership, right? And it's crazy because um, a lot of people, even me growing up, before I read those books, I had a misconception of what a leader is. And I feel like when I've been able to read that, I've had a different perspective on what it is now. And every now and then I try to apply it in certain aspects of my life. But yeah, I definitely think that reading is can be one way for sure to help maximize and help you get to wherever you're trying to get for sure.
See, actually, yesterday I was watching a podcast or an interview that they did to Daddy Yankee, and I like his music, but now that I've been on TikTok, I usually come across his interviews, and he's a very good speaker. And I've been wanting to watch his podcast that or this interview that he had done, and I was able to get some time and watch it yesterday. And he mentioned something very good, and he says, if you want to revolutionize, you always got to be willing to be the student.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very true. And that's a mindset that I keep. I'm never thinking that I'm better than somebody else. I don't see anybody else's competition. I don't see, or I don't hate on nobody else, right? I'm on my own lane. I got to make sure that I continue evolving every day or becoming better. Um, and I'm willing to learn from anybody. That's why I'm always willing to work with anybody that approaches us. We've talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
Where like, hey, I don't mind giving somebody else my blueprint, because that doesn't really mean that they're gonna do the same thing that I am. Maybe they can do something better. I can apply it on my own, and from his idea become better.
Absolutely.
But I'm always intaking something new from somebody else. Not because you're doing a podcast and I have a gym clothing line doesn't mean that I cannot learn nothing or something new from you. And I feel that that's something very big, especially when you want to become an entrepreneur, because a lot of people think that they already got to a certain level that, like, hey, you know what? I'm already better than that person. But guess what? You're always learning something new. It don't matter if that person is barely on day one and you're on day 300.
Yeah.
So I think that's something very big.
Absolutely. And just like you said, I think if you ever get to a point where you're like, hey, I'm better than that person, you've essentially gave up the ability to keep learning. But to remember that there's someone always better than you puts it realistically that then there's always something to learn, right?
Yes.
If there's someone out there that's always doing, because the reality is there's probably a million people doing better, like me personally, and whatever it is that I want to do in life, whether it be to better podcasts or more money, whatever it is, that means I have that much more to learn. And I feel like there really is never any cap to the amount of how much you can actually learn.
Yeah, I think we learn on a daily basis, and not only that, but I think also one of the biggest mistakes that happen is people always wait for that right opportunity. There's never going to be a right opportunity or a perfect opportunity. You got to work for it and create it. Every day you got to wake up and make sure that you want to push your business forward or whatever is it that you're doing in life. Even if you're going through a struggle, hey, you know what? I was here today, but tomorrow I want to be better. I don't want to continue in this depression. And I feel that's something that people get too comfortable in, and they don't do it. But you have to evolve your mindset, every single day. Um, so yeah,
When I would hear successful people talking about if you want the opportunity to be successful, you have to work on your mindset first. Before I even knew what that meant, I would always think to myself, like, how does your mind dictate, the chances or the opportunity of success? It doesn't make any sense. And it's not until I actually kept, looking into and reading and realizing what it is that they meant by working on your mind, that things around me like started to change. The way I looked at things, the way I was able to identify and analyze and create opportunities, is night and day. And I think if anyone out there is trying to be successful in any aspect, I'll say and I'll reiterate whatever it is that the other successful people would say, is that you have to work on your mindset. One thing that we always have control over, no matter our situation, is our attitude. Is our attitude towards our daily life and our attitude towards our situation. You have the chance to have a bad attitude, or you have the chance to have a good attitude. And if at the end of the day you have to make a choice between the two, why not choose to have a good attitude?
exactly. Because see, every day you wake up in the morning, right? What I usually do is I do my prayer, and I try to kick into that positive gear, right?
Yes.
Because don't matter if you wake up and you're being negative, the day's still gonna go by, and that's already a day that you lost. Staying in your lane, that's very important. Why is like if I would compare myself to other brands, or my business to other brands, how could I do that if I don't know the work that they're putting in? You get me? And if I'm comparing to them, I'm already spending my time focusing on them when I should be focusing on myself. And see, that's why when people talk to me about new brands coming along, it's like it's cool, man. I hope that they get it, and whatever purpose they got, they can accomplish it. But I don't focus too much on other people. Why? Because I'm already spending time that I should be focusing on myself on something that's not going to bring me no value.
Yeah.
So most definitely, I do agree with you on that.
Yeah. I agree too. If there's something that is that you're trying to do for yourself, the more time and energy you waste on getting distracted by other people's journey or whatever it is they're trying to do, first, it takes away from yourself. Second of all, that's crazy. Second of all, the fact that people or you catch yourself spending time thinking about what other people do and why do they got this or how do they do that, or oh, he thinks, like, it just never made sense to me. Like, it never made any sense to me, like, why people would do that. And I've always wondered what it is that they feel positively about doing that. Like, does it make them feel good? Do they get some type of emotional reward from it? Why is it that, of course, we could maybe kind of boil it down to like jealousy or envy or whatever it may be, but it's like, what is the emotional reward that you get when you speak about someone else's journey in a negative way?
I don't even think you get any reward because you're already spending your time, and you're already just by talking about that person or talking about somebody else's business in an envious way or whatever you want to call it, you're already showing that that person is more powerful than you. You get me? So you're giving them already free time inside your mind. They're already overtaking you. They're already just by you talking about them, that's already enough to at least to just to say to yourself, hey, you know what, that person's already better than me.
Yeah.
So why even look at it that way? You get me? Just focus on yourself, push whatever you got to push through. We all have good days, we all have bad days. You just got to wake up and make sure that you try to give it your best every single day. It's like if I would start a podcast tomorrow and try to compare myself to you, I'm already saying that you're
Well,
already better than
you can be very comparable to me. Maybe like if you compare yourself to like to Joe Rogan or something like that, yeah, it'd be kind of crazy, right? But
even at that,
yeah,
no.
no.
I think you're a very good podcast producer, and but why would I do that?
Yeah.
I'm already giving you free time inside my mind that
Yeah.
is gonna create negativity.
Yeah, especially we can use that for yourself and trying to be able to get there. No, I agree, man, and it's just strange sometimes how we operate as human beings, right? I think just to kind of be able to minimize the amount of stress, minimize the overthinking, minimize the over analyzing of your daily life, just staying focused, really realizing what it is that what your goal is, finding what your purpose is, what's your why, how big is your why are you doing this, why do you want to do that, how is it going to impact you, how is it going to impact other people, what's the purpose behind it? Because I feel like without purpose, without your why, you're not going in any direction. And if you're not going in any direction, you're lost. And if you're wondering when you're going to get there, you're probably already there because you don't know where you're going.
Exactly. I feel that without a purpose or without a why, you're never gonna push your goal or your business to where you want for it to be, because, like you said, there's nowhere for you to go. A lot of people or several people have approached me that they want to do the same thing that I am doing, and the first advice that I give them is that, do you have a purpose? Because if you're just gonna do it for the money, money's gonna run. Money's gonna come in and money's gonna run. You're never gonna fulfill nothing because you're doing it just for the money. People are gonna see that, they're not gonna want to support you. But then if you give them a reason why to support your brand or you support any kind of business that you have, people are gonna be there for you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people should do and can do that will really help them realize if they really want to do something, I would say, do whatever it is that you want to do. Do it for free for about 8 to 12 months. Don't expect any monetary value in return. Do it for free. If you're working for someone else, do it for free. How long can you last doing that thing that you want to do without receiving any compensation for it? I think that's going to give you massive perspective on how bad you actually want to do that thing. And if you're actually just doing it for money, or if you're doing it because that's what you really want to do.
Exactly. And not only that, I think we've talked about it before, where maybe not only the monetization part, but when you get tested, when your dream gets tested. And I think we've talked about actually
Yeah.
one of the clips that I have in my Instagram, right? Because a lot of people tend to give up very quick. So what are you gonna do when that money's not coming in? When that first test comes along? When you open up your business and nobody shows up? Are you gonna give up? So I feel that once those tests come along, that's where you're gonna say, "Do I really want this or I don't?" And I've gone tested so many times in various different ways, where it could be where maybe this week we didn't get no sales, and then next week the business boomed up, but then we lost some people, or maybe some contracts didn't come along, or maybe we had contracts and we lost them, and you're sitting there like, "Is this really gonna work?" You get me? But then I know my purpose. I know why I'm doing it, and I know that I actually want this. So it, regardless whether one door closes or not, I continue moving forward. Why? Because um, you can't become a slave of your downfalls. You know, you gotta see it as, okay, if that door closes because maybe it wasn't working or God saw something that I didn't see, but we're gonna continue pushing to the next one.
Yeah, I agree. I like what you said earlier. I'm not even sure. I don't think you said it on the actual podcast, but you said it earlier in our break was that when certain things happen, you know, it could be that because God heard something that you didn't hear, God saw something that you didn't see. Therefore, certain things just don't play out the way you plan them to be. And you got to be able to trust that. You got to be able to trust that. I'm a big believer, Arnold, that you have a lot of control over your life, like a lot of control under the blessing of God. And what I mean by that is I feel like you have the freedom to do, you know, essentially whatever it is that you want. But if you ever get to a point where God's just like, hey, that's not it. This is what I got for you. He just kind of comes in and says, hey, this is it. But you have to at some point be able to trust and believe that if anything goes not according to your plan, it's because something bigger is ahead.
Yeah. And I think everybody talks about it, right? You gotta trust the process. That's something very, very big that you have to accept when you're on any kind of journey, whether it's your gym journey, whether it's your business, anything in life. You have to trust the process because, like you said, maybe we have some decisions or we have a plan, but God's plan is always better. And once you're able to understand that, and you're able to understand all these things that come along the way, you're able to feel a little bit less stressed, and you know that there's always something better ahead. It's like everything, you know. It's like, let's say you lose your job today, and you're stressed because you don't know how you're gonna do it for with your bills for the next few days. But then a better opportunity comes along that where they're gonna pay you better and stuff, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm glad that they closed the door on me because this came along.
Yeah.
Or if that would have never gone through this struggle, this would have never happened. And that's where you start to learn to enjoy the process more. And that's where you start seeing things like, okay, if this happened, it's because something better is going to happen. And that's where you work your mindset.
Absolutely.
But it comes along with time and the experiences, you know.
One thing that I will say that I really want to anchor this down for the episode for the listeners is that I truly believe that perspective is everything. Like, I really believe that with perspective, you can give yourself that spark that you might have been looking for to get out of a bad situation. Or if you don't have the correct perspective, you can remain in that bad situation that you might be in. I always think back, and it's funny because I always think back to this picture. It's like a cartoon picture. There's two people on the bus. One's on the left side of the bus, and one's on the right side. And the bus is going around like a mountain, right? And on one side of the bus, all you see is the side of the mountain, right next to the bus. So all you see is rocks and like brown rocks because the mountain is so high. So you can't see anything else. But the other guy is looking on the opposite side of the mountain where he's able to see the prairie, you know, the other mountains, but you're able to see the clouds, the sunshine, and everything, right? But the guy who's right next to the mountain, who's looking at the rocks that's so up close, he's choosing to look at that when all he has to do is look to the other side and he can see something much better, right? So I feel like I every time I think about the word perspective, that always comes to mind. I saw that like maybe 6 years ago, and it sticks in my head because I feel like we really do have the opportunity to, if we're looking or seeing something in a negative way, just turn the opposite way and try to look at it a bit differently.
Yeah. One of the things that I try to do on a daily basis is look at any issue that comes along my way from the positive side. All right. It's like I mentioned, if one door closes, two, three or more are gonna open. It's like you said it. It's just simply the way that you look at it. But if you're always gonna be looking at negative things the negative way, you're gonna continue on the same hole.
100%. 100%, man. All right, man. We're rocking towards the end of the episode. So far, so good. Before we close it out, was there anything specifically that you wanted to share? I mean, we were able to cover background about you, your journey, some ups and downs, how the gym helped you out with, specific situations that you're in, negative ones specifically. But yeah, man, what do you got for us before we close this out?
I think one of my biggest advice and something that I had to work through was being perfect. Being perfect and people's opinion. Sometimes we get so focused on trying to make sure that we keep everybody happy that we forget to continue being ourselves. Continue being original, continue being yourself, and people are gonna see you and actually appreciate you more because you're being yourself. See, I feel that sometimes we become slaves of that. But once you're able to let that fear go and just be yourself, and you're able to accept that if one door closed, you gotta continue knocking, right? Because if they close the door on you once, doesn't mean that somebody's not gonna open the door on you later down the road. And I go through my daily lifestyle and my business with that motivation. And like I said, if one contract didn't happen, then I continue pushing forward. Why? Because maybe somebody down the road has a better, contract for me, or a better collaboration for me, that's going to lead us to, a different direction. And I think that would be the best thing that you can do to try to continue moving forward.
Absolutely, man. I 1,000%, 1,000% agree. And beautiful people, of the listeners that obviously are tuning in right now. I thank you guys so much. One thing that I do want to say before we go is very similar to the whole opinion aspect of other people. I've always struggled with that. I've always struggled with that. I grew up a certain way. I used to really prioritize how people saw me. Not acted a certain way, but I wanted to speak to people a certain way, do certain things so people could like me. I prioritize people liking me before anything else. And I think it's normal, especially when you're a kid and then teenager and then young adult, until you start really realizing how much energy you're spending on it. And you're like, God damn, first I'm spending a lot of energy doing most of the things that I don't really like, or saying things that I don't really like for people who don't even like me. Maybe,
exactly.
So with that, essentially, and I know there's people out there who've always wanted to explore certain things. I've talked to people who want to do social media, and what I mean by that is to be better in front of the camera. I'm not sure who mentioned it to me. One of my friends from back home was wanted to explore podcasts as well. Obviously, I reached out, and they're like, "No, but I'm scared," and this and that. It's like, dude, the only reason, and I think this is for everybody, the only reason no one ever takes that first step is because you're putting too much value on the way that people perceive you rather than prioritizing your own opinion about yourself.
Exactly.
Right. And I think once you reverse that, once you really care about what you think of yourself first before how people perceive you, that's going to allow you to take that first step.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what allowed me to take my first step, and that's what's allowing me to continue, get in front of the camera, make my podcast, because I know everything that I say is not great, or anything I say is not good. If it's not consumable, it's not what people would consider quality, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. What I'm doing is what it is that I want to do, first of all, and I hope that in the process of that people can enjoy it. But I've gathered the ability to put my opinion on myself first and stop worrying so much about the way people see me.
Exactly, yeah. And like I said, I feel that we become slaves of that so much that we never take that first step. But then ultimately, the only way we're going to fail if we fail ourselves. So anything that you put your mind to, like I've said it before, it's already within you. You have everything to make it successful. But then we get so entitled on like, what are people gonna think? You know, am I doing this correctly? Did I say the right words? Is my English very fluently for me to be talking in front of the camera? Did I misspell some words or not? We all make mistakes. You know, nobody's perfect. But if you put in the practice, you put in the work, ultimately it's gonna, you know, lead you somewhere.
Yeah. I think and I'll close this out with this. Mr. Beast said this. You know who Mr. Beast is? Mr.
Nah.
Beast is like the biggest YouTuber. He does billion views a month, legit. Like,
Oh, okay. I think we talked about it before. Yes.
yeah. So one of the things he says is like everybody thinks what you're doing is crazy until you become successful. Then you have become you were persistent and you were driven, right? So you're always crazy on your journey to success, and once you get there, the opinions of people change from you're crazy to, oh, he was persistent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just bear with whatever it is that, you know, people say about you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. But yeah, man, this is our third episode, I think.
I think this is our fourth
Fourth.
episode. Yeah.
We're in it. You know, I appreciate you coming back. Honestly, you know, it's always a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
I think you always have phenomenal things to share. I know that some people have commented on episodes that you've done in the past. So you have people listening, and I think that even if it's just one person, that they're gonna enjoy it, and I think that's purposeful enough for the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. I've mentioned it before. We cannot change the world, but if we change somebody's mindset, you know, we're already winning. So I'm glad to be back here. I'm hoping that in the future we're able to do, you know, different podcasts where maybe we can do like a group kind of thing, or a different, you know, environment where maybe we can give a different perspective to people and stuff. But most definitely, yeah, I'm always willing to work on new things.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Guys, for those listening, thank you all so much for tuning in for what you just witnessed, the 40th episode of the A7E podcast. Guys, this is your host, Jigga Dren. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with someone that you care about or someone you don't like. That'd be cool. If you don't like someone, share it with them. They might enjoy it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. It helps more than you know. My gratitude goes out to you. I appreciate every single one of you. Again, this is episode 40 of the A7E podcast. This is your host, Jigga Dren. Until next time, guys. See ya.